the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. Pass the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. 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 The Beans Talk. Hey, Bean fam, it is the Beans Talk podcast, and we are four educators of color, bringing you raw, authentic conversation about society views and community engagement. I'm Fabs.
I'm Steph. What's up, guys?
What's up, y'all? It's Ro.
And this is TJ.
We also have Jabari here from the Teachers Lounge.
Family, what's going on?
Yeah, man.
Excited to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Sure.
So, y'all know what time it is. It is do now time.
Yes, it is.
Do now.
So I have a question. Given the holiday season, I am interested to hear about how does everybody sort of feel about tradition? And is there a tradition that you do around the holidays that you hold sacred to your heart, or one that you are currently maybe questioning? Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So you could choose to answer either or both, however you feel. But just like, how do you feel about tradition, and what's something traditional you do around this time, or something you're wondering about changing?
Ooh. I already got one that I love. Being Haitian, soup jus.
Yes.
We have the squash soup. We've been doing it since 1804, since we got independence. That's one tradition that I want to carry on and on
Absolutely.
forever and ever. Viva Haiti! But yeah, soup jus is definitely a tradition. What?
I'm over it.
Aren't you Haitian too?
I am
TJ.
Haitian.
No, you're
Yeah.
not. But nah,
Haitian
soup
spirit.
jus is definitely a tradition that I want to keep. Can I also answer one that I want to get rid of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Okay.
Yeah.
I think one tradition that I actually want to just like throw away, this idea of like feeling like you got to spend mad money on gifts for people.
Bruh.
Man.
Yeah.
Like that shit's actually for the birds
Bruh.
now, man.
I stopped doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's one
I don't know
thing.
if I ever even got started. I think I did that like maybe once, maybe twice throughout
And
my
let's
entire
do it.
lifetime.
Do it no
Spent
more.
so much money, a ridiculous amount. I was like,
Nah.
Yeah.
everybody getting coloring books out here.
Coloring
Dollar Tree.
books.
And I'm definitely the one. I'm like, we
Dollar
have to
Tree.
get a gift. We have to get something for Viola's. Like, I am the gift.
Okay.
My time is
Yes.
You know what I mean? Time is money out here. You know?
The Jefferson family is actually doing something like that. We are no longer like required to give a gift to every single person. We did a grab bag.
What is
this
that?
year.
Okay.
It's like you pull a name and you have to get a gift for that person, and
Okay.
that's it. Which is cool because there's a lot
is.
less pressure. You don't have to get a gift for every single person.
Word.
So yeah, that's something new that we're like trying, and I think I'm glad because Christmas is expensive. Like the pressure you feel of having to get every single person a gift, and like.
Do you
it's
still give
expensive.
do you guys still give the kids gifts?
Yeah, well, I have a small family, so there's like
Yeah.
2 kids to get gifts for. But the cap for the gift you get for whoever name you pull is $100.
That's
which is-
actually so cheap compared to
people
like
said
how much
that
you
was
could
like a
actually
lot.
spend.
Like people were complaining, like, "Oh, it should be 25." I'm like,
That'd be
for one person,
That's
100 is like.
I would
good.
get 25
Yeah.
coloring books.
From
Dollar Tree.
Stop with
I
the
can't
Dollar
work with
Tree
Villa.
coloring books.
There are a ton of gems at the Dollar Tree, though.
You know
There
what
are
I'm saying?
gems.
Like,
Especially the ones up in Brookline, yo.
for real?
Yeah,
I've never been.
There's,
I gotta go.
there's a Dollar General or something like that, right? In
Yeah.
my neighborhood, or Bowdoin. You
Yeah.
can't really get much there.
Oh.
But you go to the joint in Brookline.
Yeah.
And so come
It's
up.
full. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Nobody's really going there.
It also tells you about like
Who's actually buying
yeah.
stuff
you
from?
know what I'm saying? Like the equity issues there.
Word.
Oh, yeah,
The Dollar
facts.
General in
Oh, facts.
Bowdoin,
That's
Dollar General
for sure.
in Brookline. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I definitely got speakers from the Dollar Tree. Speakers like those,
They're
those
still
big
working?
speaker towers in my apartment.
Yeah.
Those-
Oh, they're
what-
still working?
Yeah,
It
they're
wasn't
from
a dollar though.
No,
right.
but like,
okay.
$25, I got them from the Dollar Tree.
That's
It was a
pretty
good
good.
gift
That's solid.
for cheap, and it would have
Yeah.
been a lot more expensive if it was at like I don't know, a Best Buy or
Yeah,
something.
for sure. Definitely.
My family, my dad is super like Pan-African. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
black and green.
I love it already.
Me
So
too.
like we counter everything that is like Western or European culture. But I think over the years, like the true essence of like Christmas, the true essence of Thanksgiving has been lost. You know? And like it becomes like such a consumer holiday. So like we don't spend bread. For me, it's more of the tradition is like a voyage home. And,
That's nice.
Since I left New York when I was 17, like I always make it a point to go back to like my crib, either in New York or make the voyage to Florida where my grandparents live.
Oh, wow.
And the tradition is us being there. And like you talk about a dish, my mom put together this crazy sweet potato and pineapple.
Already
Oh,
starting.
wow.
Wow, that
Already.
sounds smacking.
Pineapple and sweet potato.
God.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's good.
Face like that.
I'm just saying. It doesn't sound. I mean, maybe I don't like sweet
TJ,
stuff, but
bro.
I can
TJ.
So disrespectful.
No,
Come on now.
Yo.
He was going to say it's upbeat.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call it.
But then
I'm sure it's good.
My dad would also do like a grilled barbecue salmon.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Oh,
We grew up vegetarian. It's like
Okay.
recently we started to like introduce like fish into and seafood into our
Right,
diet.
right,
But we grew up
right.
vegetarian.
Oh,
You
wow.
grew up vegetarian.
Wow, I didn't know
we
that.
gonna
I
get
did
into
not know
that
that.
some more. We
Yeah.
get into that
I'll
for
tell
real.
you,
For some more.
my dad's super pan after like
Wow.
he is Marcus Garvey. If you think
Okay.
I like that.
for sure.
I'm with it.
But like even our names, all of our names, my two siblings, it's all Swahili. So
Dope.
Oh,
That's so dope.
my.
What does
beyond
Jabari
dope.
mean?
it means brave or courageous.
Oh, okay.
And
I
my
like
middle name is Chioki, and the other one is Masai.
Mm.
And that means like gift from God and firstborn. So, and all of my siblings have names like that.
That's
That
crazy.
is
beautiful.
so dope. I
Very
did not know
dope.
that.
I
Beautiful.
love that. That's so
Yo,
dope.
shout outs to him.
For real.
And her too. Your
Yeah.
mom's important too.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, she's the rock. She's
Wow.
That's right.
incredible.
That's solid. That's so
Wow.
solid. I love that a lot. For me, I think the aspect that I've always enjoyed, again, I don't really be giving gifts. I think this is like a long time thing for me. I've been called cheap and I own that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay with that because I'm very generous with my time. And I think that's valuable enough. And I
Word.
think speaking on that, to me, the most important time or tradition is when family comes together.
Yeah.
Honestly, in the past few years, I feel like the whole aspect of family coming together has like dwindled, at least within my family, a lot, and it's diluted. And I feel like I kind of miss that, where everybody comes together, breaks bread, everybody brings like, you know, food and stuff like that. And I mean, families inside their own silos are getting larger, but I feel like all of us should just, you know, I don't know, come together and just like eat
Yeah.
and, you know, spend that time, play some games. And I mean, this past Thanksgiving was great, but I feel like usually we have like 50, 60 people inside of one space. And that brings me to the whole Christmas situation. We have so many kids coming up inside the family. Like, you might choose one adult's name, but the adults are not really the ones that's breaking your pockets. It's
Yeah,
the
it's the
kids.
kids.
It really is.
There's so many kids that come in. I love it. But I feel like a tradition I really want to hold dear is just like making sure that you spend the time with your family,
Yeah.
and making sure, you know, there's food on the table.
Always.
Because if food ain't there,
Pague fed.
it ain't a holiday. It's not a holiday.
For me, just something I always enjoyed around holiday time is to watch holiday movies and just like snuggle up with my people and have hot cocoa. We always did like hot cocoa and made popcorn.
That sounds so nice.
Not like the bag popcorn, like old school. You actually
skillet
pop
type
the
thing.
skillet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you pop the popcorn on the skillet and just like watch the holiday movies. That was something I've always done from a young age with like my cousins and like my mom, my brothers, and we just all just get in PJs,
That's
like
so
footy
sweet.
pajamas and
What is the title of a film that you guys see a
Yeah,
lot?
like what's your favorite holiday movie?
oh my gosh. Home Alone 2 is definitely like at the top of the list. We like watch
Two instead of one?
Grinch.
I know. I question
Two
that too,
instead
to be
of one.
honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
The first one
The
is-
Lost in New
the
York.
first one is the
I'm
best one.
sorry.
I like the first one more too.
Way
but
better.
The second
I'm
one.
a Lost
But
in New York.
it's about Steph, y'all.
Still,
Facts.
Bro, I'm like,
with you,
dang, I'm
baby.
just like, my moments hijacked.
this has been an argument for a very long time.
First one.
It is an
It
argument.
ain't gonna get settled today.
One thing that I would like to make something, I don't know, like in the future is just thinking about how we can use the holidays to give back.
Word.
I feel like it's always about getting,
Ooh.
and buying stuff, but not a lot of talk around going out. Like, we're not spending any money on ourselves this year. We're just going to go out and do something
That's
for the
facts.
community together.
I like
So I'm hoping that can be a tradition, or I know it'll probably be a tradition once Fabiola and I start our family, but that's definitely something that I just want to bring back the essence of like the holiday time. This time is tough.
It is.
Even though it's supposed to be just, a jolly, happy time. Like there are so many people struggling. Some people don't have families and everything is like very family oriented and being together with others.
That's true.
And people are in situations where they've been displaced, ostracized from their families. And so it's just even though it's a time where we're like, oh, be jolly, be happy, this time is really tough for a lot of people.
It is.
Yeah. Especially when you're being, like, you feel like you're being forced to be happy and you got all these other things that's going on inside your life at the same time. And then you're seeing everybody else being happy too. Yeah. Like that could be really tough. That could be really difficult.
When you think about like our students, right?
Yes.
It's a really challenging time for them as well.
It is, man.
Like they've been so like, not so much programmed, but like everything that's been like in front of them is like, you have to get, you got to get the newest this, you got to get the newest that. And like, honestly, with the population that I work with, speaking from the eyes, like they don't have resources, right? And like the resources are limited and the access is limited. And so it's like, how do you change the culture around like what it means to like, what does Christmas actually mean? What does this winter break actually mean for them?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you just talked about, this idea of like connecting with those people who you love as opposed to like getting the newest PlayStation game.
Yeah.
So, and think about like the anxiety that creates for them when they want this thing, but they can't get it.
Yeah, it's hard.
When that is the capital right there, man, it's a really tough experience for our children.
It is, for sure.
It is.
That looks like.
Couldn't agree with you more. But yeah, thank you, Steph, for bringing that to now to us. I think that was like a lot. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
One, right?
I aim to
It's a little bit.
TJ, I can't. All right. So I am really excited that I get to introduce this phenomenal organization, the Teachers Lounge. We are missing one today, Dev. We are here.
He's here in spirit.
He is
Here in spirit.
Damn, so I can salute my brother, yo. Like, you know why he's not here though, right?
Yes, his wife's expecting.
Right around the corner.
It's her due date's really close, so he is getting ready to welcome a new blessing into his family. So we're sending him all of our love.
All of that.
Good vibes.
So let's talk about the Teachers Lounge.
Yes.
So the Teachers Lounge organizes a series of monthly engagement and networking events for educators of color and friends in the greater Boston area. During these monthly sessions, members of this community engage in critical and cultural conversations. They collaborate to solve problems that are both shared and specific to our collective as educators of color, and they celebrate the successes and growth of each other. The Teachers Lounge also partners with a variety of schools, districts, and institutions to actually connect educators to the people, opportunities, and resources that will not only enhance their practice and advance their careers, but ultimately improve the student outcomes, which is why we're here. We're here for the kids.
For the babies.
For the chaps.
I know. The two co-founders, Jabari Petty, who we have with us today, and Sean on the part, and Devin Morris. They're both originally from New York, the Bronx, and Brooklyn, to be exact. And between the two of them, Bari and Dev can count on one hand the number of educators of color that they had when they were leading teaching inside of their K through 12 experiences and just being inside that sector. They couldn't really pinpoint how many educators of color they had, which really was the seed that helped Teachers Lounge grow. So realizing this low representation, they sought to change that reality for future generations through the Teachers Lounge. After having taught for a number of years, they both transitioned into school leadership positions. So we had some strong Black men leading the pack. They both served as deans of students for 2 years. Jabari served as a principal for 6 years thereafter as a dean, and then Dev, he went on to be a director of family engagement for 4 years. We have the honor of just having two really strong Black men who are like dedicated to creating space for educators of color here for us. And so it is nothing but an honor to have you here.
For real, bro. Sure.
Thank you for that
Representing.
introduction. That was dope.
No, thank you. I mean, this is why we do this. We're here to like highlight the amazing people inside of our community, and Yeah, let's jump in because we got plenty of questions for you now. You're in the hot seat.
Let's kick it off by asking a couple questions.
Yeah. Maybe I'll start off with just the community engagement part. It's like, Bari, how would you say that you define community and why is that important to you?
Wow, it's a really good question. Community, to me, I think about like I've been in Boston for 7 years now, going into my 8th. And for my first 2 years, I was struggling to find a community. And that, it was challenging, right? Because I wasn't like energized, I wasn't being sharpened, I wasn't being healed. And so when I think about community, I think about a place you can go for healing, a place you can go to be connected and be re-energized, a place where you can just really be your truest, authentic, and most organic and original self. And that's how I define, community, a place like there's roots and connectivity. And that's a large part of the reason why we started to do the Teachers Lounge spaces, so that people like myself, transients to the city, could feel those feelings that I just expressed that I was missing, and that I'm starting to like cultivate here for myself and in the city of Boston.
It's dope. It's really dope. I love that.
Yeah.
So for you as an educator, did you teach prior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I taught,
Okay. Cool.
I taught for a total of 5 years in Atlanta. Yeah.
Wow.
Right after Morehouse.
So not exactly.
Okay, talk to us.
I graduated 06 and
Damn. Sorry. I didn't mean for that to come out.
I could see you just gonna-
I'm sorry. It's a natural thing. It just comes out.
Reckless.
Anyways, I graduated 06. I moved to DC. I was doing corporate sales there for a year.
Wow.
And I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. Right? And somebody, my cube mate at the time, Tangi, shout out to Tangi. I feel like she was an angel, like divinely put right next to me to help like inspire my trajectory.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, she told me about not the Teachers Lounge. She told me about Teach for America.
Okay.
And so I applied to TFA, got in, and my first choice was to go back to Atlanta, where my community was.
Wow.
And then I went back to Atlanta. I taught 2 years at a public school. I taught Joseph Emerson Brown in the SWATs, they call it, Southwest Atlanta. Middle grade, 6th grade language arts. After that, I moved to a KIPP school, which is still in the SWATs, KIPP Ways Academy, where I taught for another 3 years.
Okay.
Middle grades language arts. And so I spent about 5 years in the classroom.
Wow.
And then pursued leadership thereafter.
Definitely.
What? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's dope.
Can you explain the significance and impact of a Black man leading the classroom, and how would you define the experience?
Wow. That's a dope question.
And heavy. That's a lot.
When I first started, I didn't realize the privilege. I didn't realize the privilege that I had and responsibility that I had being in front of,
It's dope.
at that time, which is 26 students.
Yeah.
It's a large classroom
Wow,
setting, right?
26.
Yeah, the class sizes were so disproportionate at my original school. But anyway, I didn't realize that the privilege that it was and the responsibility behind it all. But when you think about this, there's a lot of data and studies to prove, like, by virtue of having one teacher with whom you can identify, how you feel so much more connected, how you feel so much more empowered.
Definitely.
The representation there completely alters a child's life, right?
Right.
And their interests in education, their engagement in instruction.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I learned that more as I progressed in my career, which is why now I make it a point, with the privilege that I have to sit at school leadership, to employ people who look like the students that we're responsible for serving.
Yeah.
But it's a heavy weight. There's a lot of gravity there. And the word I keep saying is privilege. It's really, really a privilege to, like, be in front of these children that, our brothers and sisters have entrusted us to lead.
Yeah, like the question I have for you, Jabari, Fabiola kind of stole it, but it's okay.
TJ.
I'm just kidding. But no, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we talked about, like, the value of having a teacher of color in the classroom. And what would you say to people who try to devalue that? Because I've heard this argument several times in my teaching career. People who like say that it's not that important that kids have teachers of color, or that you can be just as impactful not being a teacher of color? Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a good question as well. So the Teachers Lounge, we think about like our opening tagline is it's a space for educators of color and friends.
Yeah.
And the and friends is inclusive to anybody who's an ally and an accomplice in this work of like really disrupting systems of inequity and really disrupting systems of oppression by way of like delivering really awesome instruction and creating the infrastructure to like foster environments where really awesome instruction can take place. So I share that to say that there are people who do not look like the students that they're serving who can in fact like promote and push this work forward. And we need those type of people as well, right? But when I think about like by virtue of how we at this table present, we carry with us a certain value that it's invaluable in fact, right?
Yeah.
You can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
But by virtue of you standing in front of your children and presenting as you do, right, how you identify, our children see that, and they themselves, again, it's this theory of like mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors.
Yeah.
And they see us, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can become that person, right? I have an access point, there's an entry point. I can cross over into like what I see in front of me." And again, it's just really invaluable, man. It's really invaluable to think about like the weight that we hold, responsibility that we hold, and what we provide for our students. We honestly just give them like a vision of what is and what can be that you can't really quantify. People are just now starting to study the impact, right? They're following children from third grade up into college completion,
Right.
and they're tracking the amount of educators of color who they had, and they are like drawing correlations between their success and the amount of instruction they receive from a person who looks like them.
Right. And I think there's research out there that proves that students seeing educators that look like them does improve their outcomes, but having a teacher of color improves everyone's outcomes.
Everybody.
Like it,
Wow.
it affects all students.
Even
like,
kids of
who are
non-color.
not of color.
Oh, that's
right.
dope.
It's like having a diverse educator in
Right.
front of you affects or improves outcomes for all
Yep.
students.
Wow.
It's a representation of the real world.
Exactly.
You know? And then when you think about like homogenous spaces, like creativity there's a ceiling on that.
Yeah.
When you bring a diverse collective of people together, like there's no cap. There's no cap there at all. You know, like it introduces a diverse perspective. It introduces innovation. You know, all those things are introduced by diversity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I love that.
Barry, baby, question for you. So you said, and I want to make sure I said it right, but earlier you said you are privileged, right?
Yeah.
And you understand the responsibility that you have as an educator of color in the field that you're in, right?
Yeah.
What would you, in your space right now, say to younger Jabari? Like, what advice would you give you from when you came? You said 17 years old is when you came to. What did you say about 17? You said something about 17 years old.
He left
New
home.
York.
Okay, you left New York. Okay, but like, what would you say to younger Jabari? Advice you would give him?
Wow. I would say stay the course. I would say reject this idea of instant gratification, especially when you think about like entering into the teaching sector, education sector. A lot of the work is like transformational, but a lot of the work is you're playing the long game. Right? It's very challenging to always see like the immediate impact that we have on our children. And so the younger me was, impatient. The younger me wanted everything right now, and understanding that that's not the world that we live in, and that's not the world of education.
Word.
What was gratifying for me, what kept me there was like the interactions I had with my students, the smiles, the jokes, just that culture that existed there was like what was the most immediate gratification.
Right.
But I think about it now, like again, dating myself, I got students who are juniors in college. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so to see them and at like prestigious universities, I got students at Howard, shout out to my HBCUs.
Okay.
I got students at Harvard.
Wow.
I got students at Morehouse because of the fact that I went to Morehouse.
Wow.
I've got 2 students who are there right now.
That's dope.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah. And that is like what you have to wait for, right? And when you see that like actually coming to fruition, you can't like, again, you can't put a value on that, and you can't explain like the fulfillment that you feel by seeing those children cross the high school, stage for graduation, and like soon to be entering into the workforce.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. So that's what you would say to little you.
Yeah.
That is so dope.
How
A
long
couple
have
other stuff too.
like get yourself together?
Save your money.
I know, right?
Yo.
Save your money.
Save money.
Save money. Those were definitely my words for my younger self.
That was you,
Save your
Steph.
money.
How long have you and Dev been like partners inside this work? Like, could you talk a little bit about how you guys met? How did this seed start to grow? And
How did the Teachers Lounge come about?
yeah,
Man, it's all divine, honestly, when I think about our course. Devin and I met in 2012, 2013. That's when I very first moved to Boston. We like to call it the fateful game night. Went to his house for a game night. I didn't know him at the time, right? Interesting story is that my best friend from New York, his wife, her cousin, lives in Boston. I played a game of basketball with him in the Bronx, pickup game, and that was it. Fast forward like 2 years, I moved to Boston. I saw him at a house party, this guy Jason, and I was like, yo, I know you. Like, how do I know you? We made a connection that his cousin was my best friend's wife. Anyway, so Jason and I got connected.
Wow.
And then Jason introduced me. He brought me to this house party where I met Devin. It's funny, like, so rang the doorbell and entered into this complex out in Razi and was walking around looking lost. And Devin is like, yo, where y'all at?
Good.
And so we're like, yo, who's this brother trying to set it on us? We're just trying to just chill, you know what I mean? And go to a house party. And I was like, nah, fam, we good. He was like, nah, y'all going to a house party? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, it's my crib. And I was like, oh, my bad.
like then we about to get thrown out before we got
I
in.
know, right? Anyway, and so, we just connected that night.
That's what's up.
And it was just, it's all love. We made a lot of connections. We're both from New York. We're both educators. Both shared a lot of experiences. And funny enough is that the job that I took, the one that brought me to Boston, as the dean of students, Devin had applied for that position, was offered the position, but decided to take another one. So I ended up taking
wow.
that
How
position,
interesting.
right?
That's so crazy
So
how the
connected.
universe works.
So crazy how the universe works, right? And so it was, we exchanged those stories. I was there for 2 years, and then as I was transitioning out to go and open a school, I was like, yo, Devin, this job is available. And then he ended up taking that job again. So it was just really crazy how that all worked out. But we connected, and we felt like one of the few at that time, one of the few Black people in Boston. Like, we now know that there are, and
We out here.
countless.
We out here.
We out here.
We out
We
here,
run
right? There are
deep.
countless people. Right,
Yeah.
right. The tribe is thick. So anyway, we felt like there was a very, very few people in Boston, and we kept asking ourselves, like, what's popping tonight? Where we going tonight? Who's coming out? And we would always be like faced with nothing, right? Like it was always like, I don't really know what's going on, or I don't really know who's gonna be there.
Yeah.
And we just kept asking ourselves that question, and we got tired of asking that question. We were just like, instead of asking, the question, like, why not do something about it? Why not make that change? And so that's how this whole thing started. Honestly, we wanted to create a vibe where it was like a house party vibe. You know what I mean? It's like you can go there, everybody there, you're connected, you're having just like true experiences. You're letting your hair down, you're taking off that mask, and you're just being your complete self.
Yes.
And that's what we wanted to recreate. Like literally, we started by thinking a bunch of games we could play, like making a track list of dope tracks that like we just create an awesome environment. And that's how it started. And that's how it started.
That's wonderful. And that's so important to have that space. I mean, I know me had been in the classroom and being in these spaces that were like largely white dominated, and we're constantly assimilating and code switching to fit into like white dominant culture.
Yep.
And just having a space where you can just feel like yourself,
Yep.
where you are having a conversation with a group of other educators of color, and you don't have to worry about, you know, some white teacher like, oh, this is where the party's at.
Right.
You know, like
I've never heard of white teachers say that.
microaggressions like that. That's happened.
For
Like,
real?
imagine how many times have you you're in the break. That's happened to me so many times. I'll be in the break room talking to, it's like a group of 3 or 4 of us educators of color. They're like, oh, what's going on? What party is going on here? And it's just like,
Right. Yeah. It's insulting, right?
It is. Low key.
It's insulting.
And low key, honestly, I feel like double consciousness even hits in that moment, because I remember like maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was chilling, and it was like maybe like 5 or 6 of us inside of like my office, and we're all talking, you know, chopping it up. And it's a Friday, so things are a little more lax. And so somebody comes in, you know, a white lady actually comes in. She actually says, it's like, oh, wow, this is where it's happening. And I'm just like,
shut your
wow. And we're in
ass
deep
up.
conversation. We're like in deep conversation. We're not just like, you know, just like, ha, 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 kiki and stuff. I'm like, dang, like, you know, we should be able to have a space to be able to just, you know, vibe out real quick without it being
a party?
already described as like a party or an event that's happening or anything like that. But at any rate, make a very good point, Steph.
yes, and thank you, Teachers Lounge, for giving us that space.
Yes,
For
to be able
real.
to freely do that.
For
sure.
real.
Speaking of, describe a moment where you were hosting a TTL event and you felt like your TTL mission was actually accomplished.
Wow.
Ooh.
One of the greatest feelings is whenever we see new people coming to the space, because that is a testament to the fact that the community is growing. And what feels even better about that experience is when new people return and bring people. That's
for sure.
when I feel like
It's a big thing.
we are coming closer to fulfilling our mission. So that's one of the richest experiences. Yeah, for sure.
I like it. I like it.
That when you guys kicked off, and mind you, of course, the Teachers Lounge is not my event, but I felt so proud. And
I know.
I felt so proud when you guys first launched this year, and you sent out an email saying like you're at capacity. Like you're
sold
out.
Like I felt so much pride as
for
like
real.
a Black educator. Like, yo, we out here and
we're
we are
out
showing
here.
up.
Right. I want to check you really quickly. It is your event. You said it's not my event.
Oh
but it's
well,
your event.
yeah. Thank you, Barry.
For sure. Like it's not about us, right?
Yeah.
It's like without the community, there is zero Teachers Lounge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is our event. Like when you're there, like y'all bring that energy. And like it makes our numbers like grow, obviously, but it just adds so much more like value to the space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Jabari, I kind of want to pick your brain a bit, because there's I've had conversations with people who are hopeless about the kind of education system they say is broken, and you've been on both sides. You've been a teacher and you've been in the admin side as a principal. So what do you say to people who say that, like, oh, being a teacher of color is a losing battle because the education system as a whole is broken, so there's no point, like, you know, that the argument that kind of you have to go back to the drawing board as far as like the system of education that we're pushing upon kids. Like, how do you navigate that conversation, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really awesome question too. My thought is that, like, I don't think that education is the only way, right? I think the system at large is broken.
Yeah, man.
Right? And I don't think that education is going to be the thing to help, like, balance the scales and, like, put the system back at a place of normalcy. I think, like, this idea of, like, wraparound services. I think, like, we need to really evaluate, like, equity in our healthcare. We need to really evaluate, like, equity in our political system.
Yeah.
Who are the people sitting at the table making the decisions?
Yeah.
You know, I think about, like, who are the people who are in our service, like, positions, like, who are the people that are policing our neighborhoods? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think all of those things together need to be addressed. I think, like, education is a huge part of it. Obviously, is why I'm doing this work. I don't think it's the only way, though, right? And I think it's unfair for us to put that burden on the system of education itself. I think it, like, needs to be shared across many people. I don't think it's a losing battle at all. I think it's, like, one of the most important pieces of the work. When you think about, like, any revolution, at the foot of those revolutions were educators.
Yeah.
And so I think like our role is paramount to, again, like balancing these scales and helping to like stabilize what feels like destabilization right now. But I do think it's many places that we have to look. When I think about like education specifically, to me, it comes down to an allocation of resources and how people are funding schools, how people are staffing schools, the programs that are available to schools. I really think that's where it begins.
Dope.
Wow, man. Question for you, Barry. Love Teachers Lounge in Boston. Do y'all have any plans of like expanding beyond the city?
Yeah.
What is that looking like? Is that too
I'm not even
exclusive?
gonna lie. There's so many people that I
Keep asking.
Yeah, like I kind of did something in AmeriCorps inside of New Jersey.
Okay.
So me and my New Jersey friends are like, so when is this coming to like the tri-state area? I'm like, I don't know yet.
New York is asking.
Yo,
Yeah.
New York
And New
is
Jersey.
asking. DC is asking.
Wow.
Atlanta's asking.
Wallaloi.
Yo, right?
You know
That's
what I mean?
love. That's love. But yo, it's hard work.
I bet.
I
I
believe.
But we do have a vision of this thing being like national.
That's nice.
Because there are so many of us, right? There's so many troops stationed around this country who are like really on the front lines, battling.
Yeah.
And talking about that work that you're doing, right? Battling and helping to like really disrupt these systems. And so we have a vision of this thing becoming national.
That's dope.
But we are challenging, or rather we are resisting the urge to expand too quickly and then like dilute the quality of the
Word.
experience
Strategic.
that we're offering to folks.
Yeah.
And we want to get this right here first before we take it to other states.
Most
You know,
definitely.
you gotta be trusted with a little before you can be trusted with a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're like really tending to like our initial community. You know.
Yeah,
So-
man. Make sure you hit us
Yes.
up whenever you expand to that next.
sure.
I want to go to Atlanta. I want to go to New York.
DC.
I want to go to DC.
TL in Haiti. No, in Haiti.
Slow down now.
That's
We
real.
In Haiti.
got
Sit up on rest,
international.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I got excited. Okay.
so Barry, I thought it was like really key what you just said a little bit ago about Rose's question about expanding, and you're like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you know, nothing good comes of anything without like putting in the work. What would you say has probably been like the biggest like difficulty or challenge that you and Dev have been presenting about like trying to get this platform up, running, and like sustainable, especially you're talking about creating a space or really this large affinity group for educators of color. And I feel like that has just like logistical challenges, but also just like mindset challenges with us being in Boston, a very white dominated state when it comes to education. And you're talking about creating this space for educators of color. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit about maybe some of the mindset challenges that the Teachers Lounge has come up against and how you all are like navigating that to really put a stake in the ground and
Word.
make it sustainable.
Great question.
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges, quite frankly, is alignment. And like Devin and I are so incredibly aligned, but that took work, right? Like we have the same vision, but that took work, right? We both knew that we wanted to create a space where educators of color can come and connect with people, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, how did we want them to connect with people? Because we didn't just want to make it a party scene. We didn't just want to make it super transactional. We wanted to create something that was what we believed to be unique and specific to our context, right? Specific to the context in Boston. Because you can do the Teachers Lounge in Chicago, you can do it in Atlanta, but the context is going to be different there, right? And so we needed to align on like, what is the purpose? What's the driving purpose behind why we're doing this, and how are we going to do this in a way that feels real to our community and to our context? So that took like a lot of storming and norming. You know, and there's a lot of storms.
I believe it.
I mean, we're two strong people, and you know, there's also like every now and then there's like, I think, to be like a competitive ego that's at play. Of course. Yo, but I got this idea. Oh, I got this idea. But like, what's the best idea for our community and for our culture? So that part took a lot of work, the storming and norming piece. And we're continuously evolving as a team, continuously evolving as brothers. And I honestly look at Devin as my brother, like more than just friends. And this was before the Teachers Lounge.
Wow, man.
Like he was present for me at some really challenging times. He was present for me at some really pivotal times in my life. And so like it's more than just that. You know what I mean? The other thing too is like finding the spaces that will house us.
Yeah.
Because we want to be really intentional about going to spaces that are owned, occupied, and operated by people of color.
By
Right.
us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Love that.
Right? Because again, that's the whole purpose behind it. Like, we want to bring awareness to these other businesses so that they can, broaden their platform, broaden their
Definitely.
impact as well. Because that's what it's about, right? So finding spaces to go to has been challenging. And then obviously, there's like the capital issue. So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
in
of
terms of
course.
just like funding the events.
Of course.
And that's a challenge. And then the other thing too is like Devin and I have full-time jobs.
Word.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm a principal at a charter school, and Devin just recently took on working with the Charter School Association.
Right.
So he's doing like a lot of network work, and that in and of itself is a challenge, right? Just
Yeah.
finding the energy
Yeah.
and making the time to do it.
Balance.
Yeah.
Right. So the theme that we think about a lot is this idea of discipline. You have
Right.
to be disciplined in order to like take care of the different quarters of your life, if you will.
Definitely. So just speaking to like the Teachers Lounge, and I mean, we've experienced several throughout
Yeah.
the
I
time.
appreciate
That's
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
TL is
We love it.
family.
Yeah, it really is. I love going there. Yeah, it's a
I
blast.
love having y'all there, man. Y'all dope.
Yeah, and being able to witness the growth and having people kind of unpack some pretty heavy conversations. I just wonder, like, what was you guys' thought process to be able to develop a program for the night?
Yeah.
And like, what made you say, like, you know what, we're going to prompt these questions, and we're not just going to play Jenga. We're not just going to play.
You're not just gonna twerk.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, that
You do a little
it
bit of
has its
twerking, too.
place.
There's always a time for twerking, right?
Steph knows.
Twerking is timeless.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just time.
But yeah, so I'm just
Steph.
wondering, like, what was the thought process behind that, and what are, I guess, some of the results that you've seen as like throughout that,
Yeah,
throughout
for sure.
those nights?
So we, as educators, we take on this this hidden tax from our students, right? Because we empathize with them so much, we end up bringing home with us like such a heavy burden that we rarely have the time to process,
Yes.
right? And if you are not attentive to that, that can in and of itself become like very detrimental to your own health and your own well-being and your own sustainability.
Yep.
And so we thought, and to this very day believe it's incredibly important to continue to have that space where people can process those very heavy feelings that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And not just as a way to like get it off your shoulders, but rather like how can I drive towards solutions?
Right.
Right? How can I make this feel much more sustainable? Is there a shoulder that I can lean on? Is there an ear that will listen to me? And that's what we try to create in those spaces.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, like I never profess, even in I tell my staff, like I never profess to have all the answers, but I do believe that across this collective, we do have the answer. I do believe across this like diverse group, like there is innovation, there is a solution there. And so that's why we wanted to create that. And quite frankly, like let people know like you are not alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
You are not alone in this work. Those feelings that you're wrestling with, those are real. Like recognize them. Those feelings that you're wrestling with, so is your sister, so is your brother. Like let's talk about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the thought is that we can reduce burnout.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can add to sustainability and keep really awesome educators
Dope.
in the classroom, or if it's their desire to ascend to positions of leadership,
Yeah.
if it's their desire to ascend to positions of policy.
Yeah. for
So
sure.
that's why we program
Love
those
it.
really necessary conversations, what we
Yeah.
like to call it.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, having the Teachers Lounge like address this huge issue, and I'm like looking at this data all the time, like at the state level. Just number one, the low projection of educators of color that are going to go into education, period. Like that's already low. And then we're losing the people we already have. So having a space that's really focusing on creating this vibe that you're not alone to help us retain our educators of color, because we know our students need it.
Yeah.
We know that they need it. We know that it's a factor to their success, and them seeing just one of us in front of them will have a huge impact on their lives forward. Like we can't afford to lose any more educators of color. And
You're right,
so
man.
the fact that the Teachers Lounge is there and your name, what was it, a couple weeks ago? My word of the day was your name is in rooms that your feet hasn't entered yet.
Yeah, man.
And I definitely feel like that is the horizon for the Teachers Lounge right now. Like
For
I'm
real.
at,
Not
I'm at
Bari,
meetings
for
at
real,
this-
bro.
at the State Department, and we're talking about the Teachers Lounge. Like
Yeah,
there's been
for
so
sure.
many
on multiple things.
I
Yeah.
received that. Yo.
so
That's
many
awesome.
places that you guys are impacting that you don't even know yet. So
That's awesome.
you got to just keep doing what you're doing. For
real.
I appreciate hearing that, though.
Yeah.
I do.
And
That's fuel for us, you know.
it is. I mean, I feel like whenever you have like an initiative that's going on and you're in the thick of it, like you're working as a principal and you're doing all these things, you're like, man, is what I'm doing really like having an impact or paying off the way that I really want to? It's hard to see that when you're just in the thick of it all. But you guys are making a huge difference for all of us.
Seriously.
And we thank you for your service.
Thank
and
you.
for-
Sincerely. Nah,
Yeah,
for real.
we really
for
do.
real.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Before we move into the word of the day and Fabs kicks us off, want to leave some space for you to just leave some words of advice for our listeners, or any last things that you want our listeners to take with them from our conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I would say let somebody else tell you no. And you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your biggest champion. You have to be your biggest hero. Let somebody else tell you no, right? Closed mouth don't get fed.
At all.
If you don't speak up for what you believe, if you don't speak up for what you want, like people cannot make that assumption. And nothing's going to be handed to you. You got to grind and work for every single thing. And a large part of that is just like asking, right?
Oh, most definitely.
Like, can I have this? Can I get that? I want this. And like personally, I entered leadership because I was like, I want this.
Yeah.
You know, I need this. You will not relegate me to this role. I want to do this. You got to advocate for yourself. You got to. And then a large part of that is like core to the Teachers Lounge. Like, we
Yes.
can't keep asking what is going on tonight. Let's be that thing that's going on tonight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would definitely offer that to my team.
Dope.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Dope stuff.
So, word of the day. Eventually, you'll end up where you need to be with who you're meant to be with and doing what you should be doing.
Amen.
So,
So appropriate.
all right, it's,
So
it's
appropriate.
weird because I had that before, like the conversation even went down. But
The universe, man.
you know, there's so many times where I think you mentioned it, like we want to be there at the finish line, but you know, we got to appreciate the process because eventually we want to get there. You know what I mean? And we got to enjoy the process and the journey along the way. And yeah,
Homework.
homework.
I don't want no homework.
You need to do your homework,
Always.
folks. All right.
Homework.
Especially, we had such a great interview. We had Teachers Lounge in the building. Please go like, follow, and listen to this episode on all of the major platforms. We also have a Teachers Lounge event coming up
Word.
this
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Drop that info, Bari.
Yep, December 14th. Come through. We're going to be at Savor, Black-owned business, owned, operated, and occupied by people of color.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come support. But December 14th, the theme for that event is Gifted, and it's a celebration of the talents and gifts that exist across our community.
Dope.
And really tapping into them and leveraging the strengths of each other.
I love
Come
that.
through for the vibe.
So it's a talent show?
Not exactly a talent show,
okay.
though. We do have some talent that we're going to put on display.
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry, TJ.
That's a good question.
like a
I thought it
showcase.
sounded like it was.
Showcase.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we got
I'll sing
we're
up
gonna
there.
have DJ Slick Vic. She's gonna do her thing.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
so
Okay.
female DJ.
Phenomenal DJ.
That's what's up.
And then we have one of our TTL fam.
Yeah.
Her and the band are gonna be doing a little thing for us too.
Wow, I'm
Nice.
excited.
Ah,
We got to pull up.
Oh, the Beanstalk will definitely
Pull
be
it up.
in the building.
Yeah.
It's gonna be dope, man.
That's
It's gonna be real
dope.
dope. And I'm gonna need a lot of positive energy for y'all because I'm gonna be flying solo because Devin is gonna be with his child.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Congrats. I'm sure by the
Congrats. I know.
I'm
For real.
hoping that by the time
That's
that
my
the
bro.
episode drops, baby's is here.
Yeah, man.
Welcome you to the world.
I get another niece or nephew. He's keeping that real close to chest.
Oh, you don't know the gender?
Nah, he keeps that close to chest, which I respect that.
Yeah.
So,
Baby Morris is coming.
Baby Morris number 2 is on the
Wow.
way.
That is so exciting.
That is exciting.
That's really, really exciting.
shit.
Okay, cool. Well, all right, real quick before we go ahead and escape this joint, we want to allow Jabari to drop a couple tags so you guys know
for
exactly
sure.
where to find the Teachers Lounge or anything
Word.
like that.
Definitely. You can follow us on Instagram at the Teachers Lounge MA. You can but you can like log into our website and access opportunities, resources that are cultivated by our community. It's teachersloungema.org.
Oh,
official.
shit.
Okay.
So hit us up there. We're getting Twitter off the ground slowly. We're trying to get into that Twitter sphere.
Okay.
But we'll hit you with that. You'll see more information on our Instagram. So again,
Dope.
that's at the Teachers Lounge MA. That's our handle. And the website is theteachersloungema.org. Mad official.
That
Dope,
is
dope,
too official.
dope.
Mad official.
All you need is a whistle.
All right, y'all. Deuces.
Bye.
Peace.
Hey!